Welcome back to Kill James Bond. And we're doing Sean Connery's favorite Bond movie, Daniel Craig's favorite Bond movie, Timothy Dalton's favorite Bond movie, the Bond movie that Bond movie producers always set out to make, and the last movie that JFK saw before the deep state got him. It's from Russia with Love.
That's true. I had that written down as one of my facts. Is that JFK saw this movie at a private
in the
screening
limousine
in the White House on November 20th.
He was watching it. He was watching it on a PSP later. In the car when they got
JFK,
him.
JFK was getting sighted up by Oswald as he was watching this on his Nokia N-Gage, and yeah, no. So this is why JFK was killed, was, I guess, not liking From Russia with Love, which offended the CIA so much that they just decided to have him killed. It's also the
CIA
first Bond
major
movie.
Bond fans.
Yeah. It's also the first Bond movie where he's wearing a hairpiece. Because Sean Connery, obviously very bald man, but went bald in the 6 months between filming Dr. No and filming this. And so he's wearing a rug this whole time.
I did notice that, actually, because in Dr. No, Sean Connery looks like shit. And in this, they've obviously upped the budget a little bit.
Yeah,
and he looks great.
It up a little bit. Yeah. But we got to talk about our favorite Bond villain in a hot minute, Red Grant.
This last one of the best men we've ever had. Homicidal, paranoid, superb material. Though his methods were a little crude, his response to our training and indoctrination have been remarkable.
So we have a beautiful opening sequence this time. Because frankly, after this one, we can just go home, right? If you turn off From Russia with Love...
Yeah, we did it. We did it. Short podcast, everybody.
If you turn off From Russia with Love at about 2 minutes in, we can just go home, podcast's over, because we see Red Grant, this enormous blonde man.
He's a very, very jacked man.
Murder James Bond. He pursues our boy through a maze in the gardens of a stately home, and he fucking garrots him.
He gets him.
Fiber wire. He pulls out of the bezel of his watch, and he's fucking done, dead, 100%.
Ladies and gentlemen, we got him.
We got him.
Easy, donezo. James Bond killed. Thanks
As
for coming along.
As a response to killing their operative, Dr. No, Spectre has decided to have James Bond clapped, and they succeed just like that instantly. Very, very effective work. Unfortunately, then they pull the reveal on you. The lights come up and they pull the fucking perfect rubber mask of Sean Connery off of a totally dead-ass man.
The makers of Mission Impossible are somewhere spitting out their breakfast cereal like, what? Because they apparently Spectre just have the ability to make perfect rubber doubles of people's faces, and they never use that again. It seems like that would come in handy, but
well, it'd be unsporting, wouldn't it? That's just for training. You can't.
Yeah, takes off Sean Connery makeup to reveal goon underneath, and the entire fucking Spectre training facility groans at my shit.
So I am convinced that this guy, after the lights come up, I'm convinced that this guy gets up and they all go and have a drink with him, because there's no way they just dress up a henchman in a tuxedo every time and just there's no way they just have a pile of henchman bodies all with Sean Connery's rubber face.
I think they do. I think they're grabbing people off the street.
Turns playing
I think they're
James
putting
Bond.
them into the tuxedo and putting the rubber mask of Sean Connery on them and just setting them loose in the maze.
And giving them a real gun. Like, what if he'd gotten lucky and killed their best operative?
Then he deserved to die. Failure is not tolerated in Spectre.
Yeah, I've got thoughts about that. We'll be getting to that later.
My favorite detail, right, is that after we see our boy Grant kill Bond, the guy comes up to him and he tells him his time, like he's doing a speed run. And he's like, 5 minutes, 30 seconds. Excellent.
Oh, but you used items, so I'm afraid we're going to take time. We've got to take points off.
But the implication there seems to be that they're running this same maze over and over again with presumably either the same or different Bonds. And what if you try to have to kill James Bond, but he's not in a maze
Yeah,
what if the situation is
somewhere
in
else?
any way different from
Well,
this?
you're done for then. They only train Spectre agents to kill James Bond in a garden.
Why would you time
it.
him on this anyway? Are you paying him by the hour?
Yeah, Red Grant is actually a freelance contractor. That was their first and most banal kind of evil, is they don't have employees, they just have independent contractors.
I badly want a picture of Red Grant wearing a fucking Deliveroo outfit with a giant box backpack, just throttling Bond.
Oh, fucking hell.
But anyway, then my notes just say tits.
Yeah, that's right, because that's our setup. Our setup is Bond has killed Dr. No. This has made Spectre very angry, and so Spectre has sworn revenge. And they've been training this large blonde man to murder him. And then we get our opening sequence, which is powerfully horny this time.
Yeah.
What if instead of like just having a sort of animated credit sequence like Dr. No, or like a full like music video like in later Bonds, what if we just projected the names onto a belly dancer?
It's a good idea. I mean, it's nice and low budget, and it looks kind of stylish.
I mean, I guess. I don't know that I ever needed to read the director of photography's name off of a woman's abs before, but
I
have a second note here that just says ass.
Yeah, there's a lot of ass, there's a lot of tits. It's a very like horny movie in general from Russia with Love.
It is extremely horny. Yeah.
I mean, we'll get into it.
Well, it's about to get incredibly horny because we're about to meet the sexiest character in all of James Bond.
My favorite guy,
the absolute boy.
Our absolute boy.
Who is Bond compared with Kronsteen?
Huh? Who is Bond compared with Kronsteen? Kronsteen fucking rules, man. We see him, he's introduced playing chess at like an international chess tournament, and he gets a message hidden under a glass of water saying, "You're needed immediately by us, Spectre." And he just fucking pulls out the perfect rook sacrifice. He plays, the moves are actually Boris Spassky's that he's playing, but he just instantly ethers this guy who he'd, I guess, been toying with before now.
And the guy congratulates him too. It's such a cuck move. He's like, well done, sir, brilliant play. And Kronstein's like, get out of my way, bitch.
Walks the fuck out. People are trying to shake his hand, and he walks past them.
Yeah, he's such a dick.
It's the joke answer for how do you introduce a character and make sure the audience knows they're smart is you have them win chess games in a single move. And they're like, yeah, Kronsteen.
Yeah, but like the thing is, right, like you're supposed to hate Kronsteen, right? But like we don't.
How can you?
We don't, because he's actually as cool as James Bond believes himself to be.
And Kronsteen always acts like he's had about like 3 drinks already. He's got that kind of like 3-drink confidence and also like slightly slurred attitude. I love him.
Kind of like hooded eyes. And he's just like very like his deal is smart, right? That's his whole thing. But like he outlines this beautiful plan to Blofeld.
The first we see of him, or don't see of him, as the case may be.
Yeah, we see the back of his head, and he's got
and his hands. He's stroking a white cat.
We get the classic. We get the cat.
He also has a very, very cool ring, which I have tried to find. It's got the Spectre logo on it. I'm trying to find my own version. It's very, very cool.
He's got like that ring so much.
It's on his pinky finger too, which means it's a signet ring. And I want to know what like wax seals he's impressing with a big fucking octopus in this secret organization that he's running.
Whatever he wants, I imagine.
Oh, that is true. But like Blofeld gets his little speech where he outlines sort of the ideology of Spectre, and he uses as a pedagogical tool to demonstrate this Siamese fighting fish.
Yeah,
he's got a tank full of fish, and they fucking hate each other. And those fish, like, they're real fish. They're really killing each other.
They didn't get like CG fish in there. These weren't models. They just had like actual fish ripping each other up in this fucking tank.
Yeah.
And Blofeld says that They're brave, but on the whole stupid, which is a very funny thing to say about a fish. But
Fucking idiots.
But occasionally you get a smart one. And what a smart Siamese fighting fish does is wait for two other Siamese fighting fish to exhaust each other in fighting and then strikes and kills both of them. And that's what Spectre's going to do to the superpowers.
Specifically,
Also in the room is a woman who's referred to as Number 3, who is like she's a Soviet, but she's now working for Spectre, and she always, whenever she's in the room with Blofeld, is always like sweating profusely and looking very nervous. So we really get a sense of like Blofeld will fucking kill you if you cross him.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, in comes Kronsteen, not a fucking afraid of anything. He's like stumbling in like
I would even say
who is Kronsteen?
Walks right in and then Blofeld's like, yo, okay, so Kronsteen, have you got the plan? And he's like...
Yeah, and Kronsteen is just like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to, big man? I'm going to explain my theory of the Anglo mind to you, which he does.
And he's right.
He says this, right?
My reading of the British mentality is that they always treat a trap as a challenge.
Yeah, because he outlines his plan and Blofeld's like, well, that clearly sounds like a trap. And he's like, yeah, absolutely, it's meant to. Shut up, moron.
He's like, I have anticipated every possible counter move. Like, he's more or less just laying his dick out on Blofeld's desk here. And Blofeld's just like, yeah, okay, you, Number 3, go do the smart guy's thing.
So Kronstein's plan is he's setting up this very, very obvious trap, and what they're going to do is they're going to have this Russian agent try to defect, shag James Bond, and kind of bait the British intelligence in by saying we've got this Lektor decoding machine that she's going to bring with her when she defects, and all you've got to do is like come and pick her up, and that's they're laying this trap for Bond.
Yes, and. As we heard, Blofeld is like, this is obviously a trap. Yeah, of course it is. The Brits are going to fall right into it anyway. Which, spoiler alert, they do.
Yeah.
Em even has a line where he's like, well, of course it's a trap, but honestly, a Lektor decoding machine, come on now.
The pussy's too good.
Seen this? Oh, God.
But we have to properly introduce our nemesis, Red Grant, which requires us to go to a place which is honestly called... honestly...
Welcome to Spectre Island. Great honor.
Why did you call it that?
Spectre Island. My hidden secret base is called Spectre Island.
And that's not even the funniest thing about it. So Colonel Kleb, Number 3, she goes to pick up Red Grant, who is the guy who's going to actually, do the nasty on Bond. She goes to pick him up, and they walk through the Spectre training area
to meet him. My favorite.
It was so good, man.
It's so good because they've got people doing live firing. Some with machine guns, some with flamethrowers. They've got actual live henchmen running behind the range, like dodging between the targets. Whether they're being paid or what, I don't know. And then, like 5 feet away, they've got people doing judo and like karate chopping through boards. It really seems like Spectre Island was a lot smaller than they were expecting, and they just have to do all the training here.
10 meter by 5 meter training area, and they're just trying to get everything done.
And they also can't afford good dubbing because everyone on Spectre Island is overdubbed and they all sound terrible. The guy is quite clearly saying the word lake, but they dub him over to say pool, like Red Grant is by the pool. So, like, anyway, they go and meet Red Grant.
Then they go to it, and it's a lake. Let me tell you, that's
it's
not
a lake.
Yeah, Red Grant is just getting his biceps jerked off by a woman in a bikini, which I'm not sure that's what a massage is, but that's what she's doing. She's fucking going to work on one of his massive biceps. And Rosa Kleb decides to interview him for this role of killing James Bond, for the position of James Bond murderer. And her technique for this is to put on a fucking knuckle duster and sucker punch him in the solar plexus. And when he
I was quite surprised when you did that to me and Dev when you interviewed us to have us on the podcast, Alice. But I'm glad that
you've got to maintain
flawless
standards.
I suffered it completely normally. The best thing about when Grant comes over, like the guy's like, Grant, get over here, and he comes right over and he just puffs his chest out so hard.
Yep.
It's if you take like a fucking screenshot of him, he's doing like slightly overweight man pretending to be thin pose. And it's so good. Yeah.
And Grant's background, right, that we're given is just murderer, right? That's his deal. Spectre fucking broke him out of prison and recruited him in Tangier. And, like, I played this as the opening, but I really want to hammer on this drop, right?
This Grant's one of the best men we've ever had. Homicidal paranoiac, superb material. Those methods were a little crude. His response to our training and indoctrination have been remarkable.
And I want to, like, explore the ideological consequences of the fact that those sentences are also a perfect description of James Bond as played by Daniel Craig.
Yeah, with the exception of the prison, yeah.
Well, I would go as far as to say, obviously, what's his name? Red Grant. Obviously, Donald Grant, Donnie, as I call him, is being set up to be like the anti-Bond. He's clearly being put there as like, this is Bond, but like in a shattered mirror with a big crack down the middle. But he doesn't really live up to that particularly well.
No, because the thing is, right, like, what they're going for is Bond but evil. But he's not that evil, and he's also better at being Bond than James Bond is.
Yeah,
which we'll get to.
They do. Yeah. In later films, they perfect the kind of Bond but evil villain. This is the sort of first version of the Alec Trevelyan and the bad guy from Die Another Day, who we see much later on. But yeah, they are trying to go for this interesting James Bond but evil. He even looks a little bit like Daniel Craig, actually.
Yeah. You can kind of see like the sort of really close cropped, very blonde hair and the like very, very large, physically imposing man. But yeah.
He was also, fun fact on this, he's 4 inches shorter than Sean Connery.
Huh.
But he's required to be taller than him in all of the shots, so he was always stood on a wooden box every time they had to act next to each other.
Hell yes. So
shocking.
We've got a plan.
So then we have this scene.
Oh boy. Do you want to talk us through capital T, capital S, this scene?
Yeah. We have a few of these, and this is definitely the first scene where you're like, oh Christ, oh God.
We see Tatiana, who works in the Consulate General of the Soviet Union in Istanbul. And we see her say goodbye to her work friends, walk across a bunch of really uneven cobblestones and kitten heels, which, queen.
Yeah, fucking hell.
And then goes to report to her new boss, Colonel Kleb, in an apartment, I guess. And
we know that Kleb is working for Spectre, but no one else knows that yet.
But she doesn't. She, as far as she's concerned, Kleb is like in uniform too. So she's like, yeah, no, this is a colonel of state security who has a secret assignment for me. And what that secret assignment turns out to be is some fucking T for T ass, lesdom ass. Like, this scene, man, I swear to God, could have been filmed in the fucking armory. The point that they want you to get from this is that Rosa Kleb is a lesbian, right? And they are not subtle about that. No, they're not.
It is more subtle than it is in the books. So when Tatiana comes in, Colonel Kleb basically performs a MILF check. She's like, can you please take your jacket off and turn around? This is the Soviet state MILF check. And then she basically says, so, you're a slut? Like, she's like, how many? You've had 3 lovers. And she's like, what is the significance of such a personal question? And then Kleb's like, nothing. It just turns me on. And then Kleb like touches her knee in a way that clearly makes Tatiana uncomfortable. Kleb also has some kind of big like
it's like a pace stick or like a riding crop, like, something halfway between
or you will be shot.
And she smacks the back of her chair with a really aggressive sound effect too.
And she basically says, this is a photo of James Bond. If for Mother Russia, we need you to fuck him and do whatever he says. Like she's setting Tatiana up to be this kind of honeypot. And it is this, I'm going to use the word again, it's hauntology, because we have this scene where the villain, Colonel Kleb, is coded, not explicitly, but very obviously, as a lesbian. And this is not presented as like titillation for the audience, as it might be in a more modern film. It's portrayed as she is a lesbian and this is bad. This is like evil. It's sinister.
Predatory.
She's predatory. She's creepy for this. She is, as they used to call lesbians, the Lavender Menace. She is the kind of woman about whom women would and did say they should not be allowed in our changing rooms. So there's this weird, like, as a trans woman watching this scene, it's very, very haunting. But
it's
anyway,
also very funny because Colonel Kleb, right? She's older. She's not like, do you want to say conventionally attractive to the imagined audience of this movie?
No.
That's why I fucking called it T for T, right? It's because it fucking is. You have a woman who's like hyper femme, who's literally being dubbed by another woman because her voice doesn't fucking work for the role because her accent's too thick, being seduced by this frankly kind of mannish older woman. Rules.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's seduced. I wouldn't say that's my reading of the scene. I mean, it's not portrayed as a seduction.
Preyed upon.
Definitely, it's preyed upon. Yeah, this is portrayed. I think it's quite a homophobic scene, actually. But anyway,
deeply.
Then we cut to the sex that we're allowed to be okay with because James Bond is shagging in a boat.
Yep.
Which I just want to pull up. That's 18 minutes into the movie that we get our first shot of Bond. Because it's, first of all, it's the lowest stakes of any Bond movie or indeed basically any spy movie of all time. Because they want to steal a code decoding machine, right? It's not there's a nuke gonna go off. It's not the world's ending.
It's not even rocket fall down. Over. Yeah.
Exactly. It's rocket's not even falling down. It's just a code machine. And it's sort of serves only to set up Spectre in more detail and as more of a threat. So they spend the whole start just focusing in on all the auxiliary characters because we know what Bond's like. We understand Bond.
Yeah.
For the previous 18 minutes, he's been shagging. We catch him after having been shagging.
With Sylvia Trench, the lady from the first film.
Yeah, he's with Sylvia.
They genuinely wanted to make this a recurring character, and like she would constantly be getting cock-blocked by Bond having to jet off to such and such another like exotic destination. And it just doesn't happen. This is the last time we see her in the franchise. Sorry.
But once again, Bond gets called away from Sylvia to go and see M.
Bond gets called away on a gigantic pager, which then requires him to like use the car phone in his open-top Bentley. Again, this is like... Because that's in the books. And this is the first Bond car. Is this ridiculous 1920s looking ass car?
And that massive phone was honest. Like the huge phone in a car was like state of the art gadget. Like that 100%. Was supposed to be something where you saw that and you were like, holy shit! Look at what the cool shit Bond has. But it's like this massive fucking handset.
No, it's just sort of quite charming.
Dashboard of your car. Yeah.
Kind of nice. And so Bond does the same thing twice, where he's just like, yeah, I'll be in an hour. And then Sylvia Trench is like, but you won't have sex with me. And he's like, well, fine, hour and a half so I can have sex with this woman. Which he
hour
does.
And 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm sorry, I need to hump inefficiently.
What he says is that as he's closing the fucking like canopy of the Bentley over them is now about that lunch, which implies he's going to eat her pussy for half an hour.
I don't believe that Bond has ever eaten a pussy.
No, I don't think he has.
I'm willing to put a pin in that. I don't think he does that.
No.
I genuinely do not believe. This is the rest of the podcast, by the way, as we're just going to be talking about whether or not Bond eats pussy. He doesn't, like, fully no.
No, he thinks it's gay. He won't do it.
He comes and he's like, well, that's enough of that, and just leaves. 100%. My God.
So after having done that, he goes back to the same shitty office as last time, meets M, and M is like, yo, this girl in Istanbul, she wants to bang you, and also bring a cipher machine. And fucking, once again, ableist James Bond. I have a drop for this.
Of course, girls do fall in love with pictures of film stars.
But not a Russian cipher clerk with a file photo of a British agent. Unless she's mental.
Unless she's mental.
This sounds like an ad-lib.
Yeah, it feels like he got to the end of his line and then he was like, no, this isn't offensive enough. Hang on.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait, I've got to...
Which is such a Connery move in general, right?
So something I want to bring up, right, is that allegedly the story is that Tatiana has fallen in love with James Bond from his file photo, wants to defect, but will only defect to him in person, and to sweeten the deal will provide the Lektor decoding machine to the British. So this implies that the Soviets have a file photo of James Bond, a British secret agent, and M doesn't see this as a reason for Bond to immediately retire. Like, Bond, you're our main guy. They know exactly what you look like. You are sacked, you fucking idiot.
It gets better, right? Because there's some reciprocity. There's some reciprocity here, because M then says the head of Station T in Turkey managed to snap a photo of this woman, and he hands Bond fully a glamour shot. Like,
this is not a fucking surreptitious photo that's been taken. It is
very,
she
very
posed for it. He's like, excuse me, madam, I would like to spy on you. And she's like, oh, please go ahead.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
And now here's my thing. I'm just going to nip in here and say, Abby, how dare you say shit about Kronstein's plan? This is a masterwork.
I'm not talking shit about Kronstein's plan. I'm talking shit about M's apparent inability to realize that he's got a massive security breach on his hands. They know what Bond looks like.
The British.
He's meant to be a secret agent.
World's greatest spy.
That's right.
James Bond.
We're one movie in and they already know what you look like, you dolt.
We get to meet.
They know it so well. They made a rubber mask of his face.
They fucking did do that.
That's not from observation. They've got like 360-degree photos of your face, my man. They've pulled out a perfect 3D model of you.
They could put a mask on someone and just walk into M's office and shoot him. Like, that is how compromised MI7 is.
The British Isles.
But we have to get another gadget, which Bond does. We meet Q for the first time.
Desmond Llewellyn is Q.
Yeah, and what he gives Bond is an attaché case, which contains a bunch of hidden coins, gold sovereigns, a concealed knife, a gun, which again fucking rules that you could just get on a plane with a rifle in a suitcase.
Well, it was in his carry-on. He was just like, yeah, no.
And
don't worry about it.
In a classic example of the like Q format for explaining something.
Watch very carefully. An ordinary tin of talcum powder. Inside, a tear gas cartridge.
And if you open the case wrong, the tear gas canister goes off in your face.
Clever.
Yeah, remember that. Remember that for later.
Yeah, this is a technique called foreshadowing, and the Bond movies don't do it often, but when they do, it fucking lands like an anvil.
He's honestly like, he's like, they spend a lot of time talking about this case. Yeah. And at that point, I was like, he's going to win using the case.
He's going to win using the tear gas case. Yes. Bond flirts with Moneypenny on the way out, and Moneypenny is like, you never take me to Istanbul. And he gives her the photo of Tanya, which for some fucking reason he signs From Russia with Love as a title drop. He doesn't even fucking go to Russia. He's not going to. There's no Russia in this movie.
From Russia.
I guess.
It's also not clear why Moneypenny would want this photo anyway.
Yeah. No.
Moneypenny's the only good female character.
Lois Maxwell fucking
in any of these so
rules.
Far.
Yeah.
She's so good.
And I mean...
and that's because she isn't an object of desire, right? I went into this a little bit.
I like Titania.
No. Sure. What I mean is I
like Titania and I like Titania.
I said this on the past one, is that every single James Bond character is thought of first and foremost, like, how do they interact with Bond? And then after that, they build a character. And for Tanya suffers from it as well, is how does she interact with Bond, or Bond wants to fuck her? And then they build the character after that. With Moneypenny, it seems like they actually started with an actual character. in that she's not supposed to be just like a fuck and forget. She's actually like going to be recurring. She needs to have some sort of staying power. So she comes across as basically the only woman in a Bond film that you're supposed to understand as a person. Like, she's the only one that isn't completely other.
She's the only one who doesn't have the mind of a child, which we'll get into.
Oh god,
But before we do that,
child brain later.
We have a classic in the genre of airport scenes, right? Where Bond shows up, meets a guy who like literally just grabs a martini off a tray in the airport. And
God, the
world's most spy-looking man.
The world's most suspicious-looking motherfucker.
This man with a fucking painted-on mustache wearing a beret starts following them. But we do get one crucial piece of information here, which is that Bond has learned from Dr. No. He has learned not to just immediately get into the car of a man who's going to kill you at the airport, and he has a code phrase.
Can I borrow a match?
I use a lighter.
It's better still.
Until they go wrong.
Exactly.
Which sounds like such a fucking proposition in general, right?
Yeah,
like, it doesn't
again,
sound like a
same thing
normal...
was with Quarrel. It sounds like Bond is picking these guys up, but...
Yeah. And, I mean... Anyway, they use this one code phrase throughout the entire movie. It is laughably insecure, but this time it was.
As with all of MI6's measures.
Yeah. Now,
more secure than his
would you care
face.
to like pretending you haven't seen this movie? If I told you, the fucking MI7 station in Turkey in Istanbul operates out of a front business, what would you guess that front business would be?
Would it either be like carpets or olives? Those would be my
It's in back of a rug shop.
There you
There's
go.
a big rug over the
ice
door.
cream man.
Yeah, and we meet my second favorite character in this movie after Kronsteen, Ali Kerim Bey, the head of Station T in Turkey, and a man whose only job in this movie is to lay maximum pipe at all times, in all situations.
He's so cool. He's like
very
such
cool.
fun.
He's like our man in Istanbul. He's very cool.
Yeah, wears a lot of like white linen suits, and like as a means of telling you how much he fucks, right? We get this exchange.
So I gathered from your chauffeur. He's a rather intelligent young man, by the way.
He should be. He's my son. Coffee?
Medium sweet.
2 medium sweet. He also is my son. All of my key employees are my sons.
And he has so
It's
many
so
of them.
Yeah, they keep going. It's like a recurring gag.
Also, something else I pulled out, which made which when I was watching and I paused the video to yell about for a second or two. Kerim has a framed photo of Churchill on his desk.
Yeah, and a giant one.
It's
too.
so good. It's
It's
massive.
very weird.
It's so good. Because it's like, for what purpose can you possibly have this? I guess he just has like too large of a family to have just family photos there.
Yeah, it would take up the whole desk.
And we also find out that Bond has been followed, which he observes, like everybody knows everybody's following everyone else, by a pair of Bulgarians working for the Russians. And that's who that incredibly spy-looking man is.
And also Donald is following in a car.
Yes, that's right. And we get a sort of interesting sequence, right? Because like we get an excruciatingly long scene of Bond checking into his hotel. And the thing about this one, right, is that like in the early Bond movies, they really paper over the cracks with the Bond theme. Like, you know that once they finish composing it, they're like, okay, we've got a thing here, right? But like, whenever there's a slow moment, they'll just fucking crank that shit up. And so Bond inspects his hotel room for bugs and then asks for another hotel room and like tips the bellhop and stuff. And in the background, you have the extremely epic Bond music. And you get the sense that like Bond has this running on a loop in his head as he just does mundane stuff. Like he's just going about his day doing dum dum dum.
I'm gonna argue with you on this one. I think the hotel scene is masterful, if anything. The music, terrible, like bad. If you watched it silently, it would be good. Because, again, I want to go over it. This is not a leitmotif. It's not like different music with the same tune. It is the Bond
It is
theme
what you think of as the Bond thing,
like,
yeah.
But the hotel scene is great because he shows up, he finds a bug in the hotel, and he asks them to move to a different room. And they go, okay, tell him they've only got the bridal suite. So they tell him, he swaps to the bridal suite. He now thinks he's safe. But in reality, he's now in the room that they wanted him to be in from the start. And it's a way of showing that he's being completely outplayed by Spectre.
That's a good point, Dave. I hadn't actually realized that.
They put a very obvious bug in there. He finds it, and then he thinks he's like, I'm fucking James Bond. I found the bug. And then he moves room, and then he doesn't care about security from that point onwards.
I mean, all I can say is...
You're right, Dev.
Compared with Kronsteen.
Kronsteen wins again, motherfucker!
Kronsteen fucking wins again.
Yeah, that's right.
He has anticipated every move. Damn, good work, Kronsteen.
That's right. And so Grant kills this Bulgarian dude, and he leaves his body outside the Soviet consulate, prompting an act of revenge.
Mm-hmm.
They try to kill Kerim. And the reason this doesn't work
is because Mrs. Kerim is horny.
Mrs. Kerim is so fucking horny, man. He's trying to like work on some papers, and she calls his name like 6 times.
She's writhing,
biting on her own necklace. She's like, I need the pipe immediately. This second. No, it can't wait. I don't give a shit what kind of secret bullshit you're doing. And his line, which I quite like, is, well, back to the salt mines. And as he's taking off his jacket... the Bulgarians try to kill him by setting off a disco ball in his office.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a purple explosion, which is very fun.
Yeah, just a flashing purple light goes off, and the fucking roof comes down. I mean, it's
that's just how Kerim Bey fucks. That's just how he does it. That happens every time.
Well, that's kind of what Bond implies when he shows
he's the
up.
bomb.
Bond
Bond
just straight up asks him, "Hey, are you a rapist?"
He's like, "Hey, did you do this with your dick?" Like, wow, good
like
work.
Genuinely, this is the exchange, right?
A good fortune. I was relaxing on the settee for a few moments. The girl left in hysterics.
Found your technique too violent?
Yeah, it's really like, ooh.
Fuck me, dude. Like,
It's kind of creepy. But anyway, then we get some racism.
Not quite yet.
No, that's a little bit.
First, we have to like swim across a reservoir, and Bond has to use a periscope to like look into the Soviet consulate for some fucking reason. And he sees a pair of women's legs, and he's like, "This is the horniest I've ever been." Do
you want to know what else?
Woman.
That's not Titania's legs. She had a leg double. The director decided her legs weren't hot enough and swapped her out for a different one in that scene.
Good lord.
Which is why you never see her face in that, because it's a fully different woman. Because, again, these movies are horrendously misogynist from top to bottom.
How would the periscope work? Like, does it come up through the floor and a pot plant lifts up? Like,
I imagine so. Like, it's... They've got, like... And I want to stress it. This is not, like, 2 mirrors set up. This is a full fucking naval periscope.
It's like a submarine periscope, yeah. But
what a time.
now we got to talk about the racism. Now...
Yeah.
I think we should do some stall setting out here, right? Like,
good idea.
I think what we are going to say when we're talking about these people is Roma, right? Mm-hmm. That's not what they say in the movie.
Yeah, that is not the word they use in the movie.
I have it in a drop, so I'm going to have to mention it. But the word that they use is gypsy, right? Kerim takes him to an encampment that he has, and he just quite flatly says, "Yeah, I use these guys like the Russians use the Bulgarians." To,
that's the verb is use.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He calls them filthy. Like they are portrayed as sensual and tribalistic, and they're going to see these people that Kerim uses. It's not really clear why, but also. When they get there, apparently 2 women are going to fight to the death over a man.
Oh, I have the drop for this. Yeah,
that's in a
It seems
moment.
we've come on the wrong night. 2 girls in love with the same man have threatened to kill each other.
Hey, when this
We
happens.
settled it way.
I want to just explain why they're there, because while they're looking through the periscope into the Russian embassy, they see a guy who's like a spooky killing man. Is how they said it.
Krylenko.
Krylenko. He really enunciates it. He's here. He probably did the mine outside my room. We need to go somewhere else overnight so we'll be safe. And they go there, and immediately Krylenko is
he just finds them.
They're there.
Yeah, he just knows. Yeah,
His MI7 leaks like a sieve anyway. We're not concerned with this right now. What we're concerned with is are the sensual ways of these people's women, right?
That's right.
The movie, we're about halfway through now, right? And the movie just has a striptease in the middle of it in case you get bored, basically.
There's a belly dance, yeah.
It's got a belly dancer, and then Bond is just watching this, and then
the belly dancer comes out, and Bond turns around in his chair with such fucking speed and alacrity that you could like almost hear the Metal Gear Solid exclamation mark. Because he's talking to Kerim, and then you just hear like the rattling of a belly dancer, and he just rotates fully on the spot.
Yeah, and
he's
then
like an owl who, like, with the special ears on the side of his head, just like channels the noise of pussy
like
to his
full
brain.
Eyes bulge.
Yeah, like his head rotates 180 degrees.
Yeah, it's then time for the let me say ultimate surrender portion of this movie, which is just 2 partially clothed women wrestling for the affections of an unseen man. Yeah,
the Roma cat fight that every movie has to have.
Of course.
And it's very uncomfortable because there's these 2 scantily clad women having this fight, and then partway through, Krylenko and the Bulgarians and also Red Grant attack, and there's this really weird gear shift between the violence that we are supposed to find sexy and entertaining, which is the violence of these 2 women killing each other, and then the violence that we're meant to find is, now peril, now danger.
Now there's real danger.
So it's this really bizarre gear change between these 2 kinds of violence. It's very odd. But anyway, the Bulgarians attack, and then we get a slightly weird moment because all these people in the encampment are being attacked by the Bulgarians, and as Bond is running through the camp trying to kill Krylenko,
hitting people at random.
But he saves someone's life. He actually stops and he saves a man's life, which is like the first unambiguously heroic thing we've seen him do.
Yeah, he saves the chief, who says thank you in the most heavily accented way I've ever heard.
There's also a point in the fight where Bond comes across 2 men who are fighting and just pushes them both into a pond.
Yeah,
and it's he's just not taking sides, I guess.
Yeah, but he does do something unambiguously heroic, and also Red Grant saves his life at one point. He's about to be stabbed, and Red Grant shoots the guy.
But like he's just shadows. Sort of wandering from place to place, occasionally pistol whipping a guy in the middle of his back, like
pressing heavy attack,
like setting a covered wagon on fire, throwing a guy into a pond, and eventually the Bulgarians have had enough and they leave. And this leads to one of my favorite lines, which is in relation to the chief whose life he saved.
Lavra thanks you for saving his life. You are now his son.
Yeah, like he's made an honorary member of the tribe.
Yeah,
he is asked to
dances with wolves here.
Yeah,
is asked to adjudicate the fucking girl fight by, I guess, fucking both of them and deciding which one is a better wife.
I started a stopwatch when these women appeared on screen.
Yep.
Because we do a thing here where we measure how long it takes for a woman to first appear on screen to the time Bond has sex with them. The record from the last was Miss Taro, a white woman in yellow face, that took 8 minutes and 40 seconds.
And this time, to the best of my knowledge, non-Roma women playing Roma.
Absolutely. Two women, 5 minutes and 40 seconds apiece.
Ooh, so he's improved by 3 minutes.
Record.
Okay.
He's cutting time down. This is, to my mind, and I don't know if this is or not, but I feel like this isn't a faithful representation of Romani culture.
Yeah, I mean,
is there a cultural
accurate to me.
mechanism in Turkish Roma culture that requires or provides for a sort of semi-naked wrestle in order to marry a dude? I don't think that there is, but the movie insists, and so that's that.
And then they just leave.
Then they just fucking leave.
Yeah, in the morning they just go. And they're like, that was a scene. All right, next scene.
Next scene.
The next scene is my favorite.
Oh, please, take us through it.
So Bond gets back to his hotel room, which, as we've established, is exactly the hotel room that Kronsteen wants him in. And he finds a blonde woman in a choker in his bed.
Oh, that fucking choker. It's a black velvet choker, and I think all of us currently are like doing the sort of like eyeballs bulging out of face siren noise.
I mean, other than the fact that she is Russian rather than American, like, oof, like this is, I'm very jealous of Bond in this scene. And anyway,
you know that this scene is a stock audition for Bond actors and Bond girls.
Yeah,
really?
Which is remarkable.
Yeah,
it's
when
not a particularly good scene.
No, it's not. But when they've been casting Bonds, that's one of the auditions that they make them do. Is Bond discovers this woman in his hotel room. He's taking a bath and he forgets to turn the tap off. So presumably the room is just flooding at this point. And he falls sort of face first into the honey trap with another truly transcendent line.
You're one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen.
Thank you. But I think my mouth is too big.
No, it's the right size. For me, that is.
I mean,
that is such a way to
go
end
to
that.
jail. Go to
it's
prison.
not a good line.
Go to
Do not
fucking
pass go.
prison, man.
I mean, I would also fall into the honey trap if a honey trap looked like that. But this is Tanya. She's played by an Italian actress being dubbed again because I don't know why. That's just how we do it.
She had a really thick Italian accent, apparently. And it would have been a bit weird if she was like, I think my mouth is too big.
But anyway.
Hey, welcome to Istanbul, greatest city in the world.
I love the communism.
Hey, you ever heard of a bodega? No. Yeah, but she's very much meant to be Russian, so they couldn't have a heavy Italian accent.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, they
fuck. They fuck, but like we get a really well done shot of the other side of the mirror where there's a bunch of guys with like really advanced cameras just like filming them in close up.
I paused it on this to tell who the two of them were because the British film censor said that they had to make that shot very, very quick because apparently fucking on screen is fine, but not voyeurism on screen.
But it's not voyeurism. They're not doing it for sexual purposes. Whoa.
Like, it's Grant and Kleb in there.
Huh.
Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Yeah, I didn't spot it
well,
until the second
I guess it
watch.
is voyeurism if Kleb's there because she's getting off.
Yes,
yeah, that's right.
Grant, as far as we know, yeah.
There's also a scene where they deal with the guy Krylenko. They finally deal with him, and it's a beautiful scene where Bond sexually harasses a woman, sort of in the abstract.
The platonic form of the woman,
a poster. Yeah.
He sexually harassed a poster. So to set this scene up here, what they're doing is they know where Krylenko is. They know where his base is. So they're hiding nearby with Bond's folding sniper rifle from his case. Kerim Bey sends two of his sons, who are policemen, to go and knock on the door. And then
he can't just run out the back. He opens an escape hatch,
which is on the wall where there's a massive poster, and it is the woman's mouth of the poster just opens up, and he starts to climb out. Kerim Bey shoots him, and then as a sick line, Bond says, "She should have kept her mouth shut."
Doesn't bear any resemblance.
What are you talking about, dog?
Yeah, his one-liners in this film aren't actually that very good. There's a very bad one later on.
We'll get to that one.
But anyway, they get Krylenko.
Yeah, we have a brief scene in the Hagia Sophia, the now mosque, then museum in Istanbul, where Bond manages to extract a floor plan that he does not need from a woman that he has already had sex with, like, for no real reason. And the reason this scene exists is so that our, like, obvious Bulgarian spy man can get fucking murdered by Red Grant, who, like, with the simple expedient of punching him in the side of the head twice, murders him stone fucking dead.
She sort of slaps him twice.
Yeah, and then they get the floor plan of the Soviet consulate in order to steal the cipher machine, and then they already have a floor plan. They're just checking if it matches for some reason. There was no reason to like do this. But Kerim and Bond are immediately like, "Yo, this is like the biggest trap. This woman is clearly playing me, James Bond." However, the pussy too good. So I don't care about this.
I mean,
I'm going
again,
to, like...
if the honeypot looks like that, I mean, yeah.
Kerim says something to the effect of, "She's got you whipped, Bond."
It's a very nice choker.
It is nice, yeah. And then we get what I call the horny
Trans
machine
women, folks.
talk. Yeah, the horny machine talk section.
Oh, I like
where
this scene.
Bond is trying
a
to
good
like
scene.
extract technical details about this cipher machine, and she's just like, "I'm so horny. You just fucked me already." Like, instead of talking about this boring boy stuff.
So Bond is recording her talking about the Lektor decoder machine to try and establish that it's genuine, and he's sending this recording back to MI6. But she tries to embarrass Bond in front of his boss by just talking into the recording about how goddamn horny she is. And that was my read on it, is that she's trying to annoy him and wind him up, which I thought was quite cute.
But like the thing is, right, but Bond, this is the only moment where Bond outplays her because he kicks that embarrassment up the chain one level by embarrassing his boss himself with this very curious line.
Dushka, tell me the truth. Am I as exciting as all those Western girls?
Oh, once when I was with Am in Tokyo, we had an interesting experience.
Thank you, Miss Moneypenny. That's all.
I mean, fill in the blanks yourself. But all I have to say about that and the implications there are this drop that I used already.
My reading of the British mentality is that they always treat a trap as a challenge.
Again,
Yeah,
you know,
you're
who is
welcome.
Bond compared to Kronsteen?
Who is Bond?
The other funny thing, right, is how horny this makes Moneypenny, of all people. Like, she's listening in on the intercom and she's fucking sucking off a pencil, listening to another woman be horny. It's
not a great...
Yeah, this
Not a
movie's
great
really
portrayal.
giving me mixed messages about lesbianism.
It's good, but also it's not good. It's good when it's not communist, I guess. Anyway, Bond gets the actual cipher machine stupidly easy by the simple expedient of fucking blowing up a diplomatic mission with a bomb.
It seems very easy to do that. It's not really very
Could have
exciting
just done
either.
that. Didn't need to do the whole honeypot thing. Could have just blown up a wall and then, like, karate chop one man, steal the thing, run out.
That's right.
And then we get to the fucking denouement. They get on the Orient Express.
Jesus Christ.
Unfortunately,
this is a long scene.
Yeah, God, yeah, it takes for fucking ever. Unfortunately,
It's like 30 minutes.
one of the Soviet dudes, who is also an extremely sweaty man, you can kind of correlate like sweatiness to evil here, manages to get on the train with them.
Prince Andrew, the world's least evil man.
Yeah, that's right.
Allegedly.
What does that even mean? I'm saying he's not evil.
Allegedly a very nice man, yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying allegedly he's a nice man.
Yeah, so Bond and Kerim, like, do some fucking boyzone adventure shit. They easily capture this man, and then what they do with him to restrain him is they pull his jacket lightly down over his shoulders, and he's like, well, you got me.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Grant then kills both of them, because Grant's the only person in this movie who's good at his job.
Yeah.
And he's bloody good at his job as well. Like, he's frequently just seen in the background of scenes.
Yeah,
just
he's
sort of
so
standing
fucking
there.
good at this.
It's like a really well done, menacing villain.
He is. Also, the actor who plays him really gives him this sort of menacing presence. He's very
the
good.
The only downside to it is that a lot of what he does that is supposed to actually be menacing is done off screen. So like we only see him walking towards the room where Kerim is with this other guy, and then later on some other guy's like, my God, they're both dead. It's almost all of what Grant does is off screen, and I don't know that it really helps.
Yeah. In the meantime, though, we get some character development for Tanya, which is to say, Bond buys her some lingerie, and this is the most 1963 lingerie you can imagine.
Is that what that was meant to be?
Yeah, it's like a negligee.
It's not even that. It's like an ankle length
too. It's
huge.
Ankle length. It's like, oh god, it is not sexy at all. And I don't know how much of that is like film classification and how much of it is just like this was made before free love even. But
this was made before women were sexy.
That's right.
I don't think it was, having seen Tanya.
Yeah, correct. You got me there.
Calm down. I'm gonna get a spray bottle. So
I want to highlight very quickly when they get on the train, they're given false identities.
Mr. and Mrs. Somerset.
Yeah, David and Caroline Somerset. Bond tells Tanya that her name is Caroline, and then immediately and loudly, with the door open as he's leaving, calls her Tanya.
King.
And I'm like,
Again, James Bond, world's worst spy.
Baby. Here he is.
But then, sadly, we get a scene. So Kerim is dead.
Yeah.
Kerim's been killed. And Bond suspects that Tanya is a double agent or something.
Yeah, how to get information out of a woman, 1963. The violence.
Sing along at home if you know the words.
Yeah. It's
Violence.
literally like he grabs her by the arm and then he slaps her a couple of times.
Yeah, our hero, ladies and gentlemen, like...
and she's like...
in tears, she's crying, it's very sad.
She's reduced to tears, but also she's like, she's protesting that she loves him and that she doesn't want him to leave her. It's real fucking grim, man. She's like, I love you, and Bond says, sure, and just fucking leaves.
And this woman has left her friends and presumably her family, her country behind, and is now considering really defecting. And all she has to look forward to is this violent bastard. It's a heartbreaking scene. Time marches on.
Mind, I'd also like to point out that Bond fucking hits her even when like they're supposed to be, not hostile. Let me just give you this, right?
Now listen. Just do as I say, will you?
Yes, James.
And I mean.
Well, that was him.
That was a slap on the ass.
That was a slap on the ass.
That was a firm slap on the ass. Just do as I say. Smack. And we know that Sean Connery's own views about women and like relationships with women were not too different. This is I don't think audiences at the time would have seen it as being anything aberrant in the slightest. And it's a really grim thing. Like it hasn't aged.
Oh god, no, it has not aged well. My word.
It hasn't.
No.
But then Red Grant makes his move.
Yeah, we get to Zagreb, and because MI7 uses the same laughably insecure code phrase all the time.
Apparently everywhere as well.
Everywhere in the world. Do you have a match? I use a lighter. Better still until they break down. Like, so Grant knows this. You'd think because he'd been standing directly behind Bond the last time he used it, he would know it that way. But no, he later says that, like, Spectre's, world reach sweated it out of a guy in Tokyo.
Which is so funny because that implies that code phrase is used every single mission.
Again, MI6's security is state of the art.
It's not.
But this is also when we hear Red Grant's voice for the first time, and it's really not what I expected.
Yeah, Red Grant hitmans his way into like he get further increasing the vibe of this as a pickup line. He gets the guy who M has sent to meet Bond to follow him into the toilets, murders him, takes his hat for some fucking reason, and then adopts his persona, Captain Nash. And he adopts the voice too, so it's very plummy, it's very upper class. And it sounds.
And at this point, I'm struck by the fact that Red Grant is already on the train and has already committed 2 murders on the train. Why not just kill Bond? Why
he needed
this
to
subterfuge?
toy with him, I guess.
I guess.
It's all part of Kronstein's plan.
Why not just kill Bond is going to be a sentence we say maybe ad absurdum over the course of this podcast.
Because Bond like takes him to dinner, and Red Grant orders in the persona of Captain Nash. He like, first of all, he drugs Tanya with chloral hydrate, which Bond is later repulsed by, which is fucking hypocritical of him. And then he orders a Chianti with his soul. He orders red wine with fish. And
which is fucked up.
It certainly was then. I mean, you could get certain red wines now that would work, but back then it was like, what?
Not a Chianti.
This is the kind of thing that like you had to use to show that someone was jokeified in 1963, because we didn't have the kind of advanced jokeification technology that we have now. Instead, you just had to like be like, yeah, I'll drink a red wine with a fish. I don't give a shit.
That's life.
And the waiter is like, yeah, do you want a white Chianti? Which, first of all, isn't a thing. But no, this guy is like,
white wines made in the Chianti region, so I just imagine the waiter
like,
was
no,
like,
fuck you.
Have you fucked up here? Do you just mean like
give me a red Chianti?
Insanity.
Yeah. And so Tanya gets back to the room, collapses, and Nash pulls a gun on Bond and reveals himself to be Red Grant. And Bond, being Bond, does not miss a fucking trick, does not miss an opportunity to be a fucking snob. So the first thing that he says is,
red wine with fish. Well, that should have told me something.
You may know the right wines. The other one on your knees.
Which is, again, fucking roasted.
Yeah. Red Grant's really, really good in this scene, actually.
Red Grant fucking owns.
This is a good scene. Like, Bond seems to be in genuine, real peril in this scene.
But at the same time, Grant reveals all of this very sensitive information that he really shouldn't. Like, he reveals that he works for Spectre. He tells Bond what Spectre's plan is, but he does it in a way that, yes, is goofy because he should have just killed Bond. But it's clear we're seeing here now that Red Grant is a little bit unhinged.
Well, the other fun thing about this is that, like, as soon as he drops the act and he pulls the gun, his voice goes down about 2 full social classes. And so when he's giving him the monologue, he sounds like this.
Oh, I don't mind talking. I get a kick out of watching the great James Bond find out what a bloody fool he's been making of himself. We're pros, Mr. Bond. We sweated your recognition code out of one of your men in Tokyo before he died.
Which, again, you didn't need to do that, but it is true.
To us, that does sound a bit fancy still, but like it cannot be stressed how fancy this bastard was making his voice before.
Yeah, and like
he was constantly referring
clearly
to
like
old
there's some
well.
fucking class character going on here. There's some class anxiety about this guy who disguises himself as someone more upper class, and then the facade drops, and he's much meaner than that, right? And so he. Bond tries to pay him off. As a member of the lower classes, you must like money, right?
Yeah.
And you get this sort of beautiful thing where it just does not work at all.
How much are they paying you?
What's it to you?
We'll double it.
Your word of honor? As an English gentleman? The first one won't kill you. Not the second. Not even the third. Not till you crawl over here and you kiss my foot.
Yeah,
and the whole time in this scene, he's just really like there's this really pursed, sort of tense anger.
Yeah, there's no music at all. There's just the sound of the train. It's genuinely so good.
Right?
Robert Shaw was the name of the actor playing Red Grant, and he really does make him this like stone cold killer. It's very good.
Yeah, and this sort of contempt towards Bond, like he comes by it honestly, is the nice thing. There's some real sort of class animus here.
Well, he's a big fan of the podcast, Red Grant. I mean, he just wants to kill James Bond, as do we all.
Honestly, Red Grant, come on the pod.
Yeah.
Anytime, you're welcome.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
Bring Tanya with
for
you.
our boy, though, the hook is in, right? Bond realizes that the thing that gives him pause is like greed, is money. And so Bond is like, yeah, no, there's a bunch of money in this case. And of course, through a technique known as foreshadowing, we know that when the case is opened in the wrong way, a bunch of tear gas goes off. And this happens despite the fact that Red Grant takes a bunch of precautions, right? Like, he has Bond open the case, and then he, like, opens the second case himself. And it's just like, it's actually quite deftly done. You get the sense that this is not an easy man to trick, and that Bond, having done it and maintained a poker face the whole time, is something quite impressive.
Yeah. And sadly, Red Grant gets fucking done. He gets got.
He gets fucking done. He gets
genuine
done.
Fight that lasts like 2 to 3 minutes.
The first good fight scene in the entire franchise.
Yeah, Bond has learned some new moves, not just heavy and light attack.
He has learned the grapple feat, and as such, due to the invention of fight choreography, this looks like two guys in a train car with a light shot out trying to kill each other. Like, Bond fucking stamps on his back at one point. It's brutal, and it's brutal in a way that, again, I don't think you see until the Craig movies even. And yeah, no, it's really quite striking. Unfortunately, the movie goes on for another 40 minutes after.
Yeah, this is the point at which, like, if that had been the last scene in the movie, I would have been like, fuck, this is a great movie, actually. This is legitimately a good movie. But it overstays its welcome so hard.
We're going to blast through this last bit, right? They get off the train. Bond gets in a fight with a helicopter. A guy in a Spectre helicopter who looks a lot like Simon Pegg tries to drop grenades on them.
Which is very unusual because we've established that Spectre are trying to get the Lektor decoding machine, and it feels like you damage it that way. But at this point, I think Spectre are taking the piss.
There's actually some very impressive stunt flying, which still manages to be boring from a plot perspective, but like they try and run Bond down with the helicopter like north by northwest. And like they actually got a lot closer to Sean Connery than they intended to. So the actual filming of this, Bond is diving out of the way of this helicopter that absolutely shoots through the frame. Unfortunately, of course, Bond wins in the end. He shoots the guy drops a grenade in the helicopter.
It's a very like Hemingway not Hemingway. Hitchcock inspired like crop duster kind of scene.
Of course, Bond does have a line, which is one of their aircraft is missing, which is topical at the time because it's the name of a movie, but like now is just like, yo, what?
Now it's not a good line.
Yeah, very weird. And then the saddest scene.
Then we cut back to Spectre's boat, Blofeld, Kronsteen, and Kleb.
Kronsteen now a little bit hungover, maybe. It's kind of starting to sober up, not feeling good about it.
As smug as he was at that point, he's saying, "Look, it's Kleb's fault. She fucked up. Her guy
which is
didn't
true.
do it right."
Which is literally true. He set everything in the right place, and it was Grant's fuck up. But like neither of them.
Grant
know
had
that.
just shot Bond, like. Kronstein's
There's an extended sequence where like Grant is robbing Bond and he has a gun to his temple and he could have just fucking killed him, but like he does not. He chooses not to in order to obtain more gold sovereigns, and for this he pays with his life. But Blofeld does a classic, what is to become a classic Blofeld move. He does the fake out, right? Where he
pushes a button
blames
on his
everything.
desk that summons Big Man.
Big Man. He presses the Big Man button.
We all wish we had a Big Man summoner. He summons a flat-nosed geezer.
He does. And he's laying everything at Kleb's door. And then, at the last second, the Big Man fucking murders our boy, our special man, Kronsteen, with a poison knife in his shoe.
Kicks him right in the shin.
Yeah, it seems like you could have gone for one of the two. You could have gone for poison or knife in the shoe, but they decided to go for both.
And Kronsteen like lunges over the desk with this like really well done expression of like confusion and affront and bafflement. Like, why would you do this?
Like, for fuck's sake, man, my plan was good. Like, Kronstein's actor, Vladek Sheybal, is phenomenal in
the
this.
Plan worked. You could have fucking like, I don't know, dock the guy's wages or something. But instead, what Blofeld hits him with is failure is not an option. The punishment for failure in Spectre is death every time.
Which presumably explains why they never win.
Yeah, which is why there's 3 of them there, and they're called numbers 1, 3, and 5.
Yeah, numbers 2 and 4 could not make it on account of having been fucking murdered.
They failed. They failed and are dead. Yeah.
And so Kleb is sweating buckets at this point, and Blofeld is like, fix it. So we get through a boat chase, which is very boring, right?
Very bad.
There's a boat chase, it's fine. Bond gets another line where he's like, where there's smoke, there's fire, which is funny because he's just set a bunch of men on fire. Those
also,
things
it doesn't
don't
make
go
sense
together,
in context. It's very bad.
Does not make sense.
Tanya's still there, but she's just basically an object at this point.
Yeah,
she's fully clocked out.
She never really recovers from being roofied.
After this, oh fuck, that's something I wanted to point out, because after Bond kills Grant, he fucking finally does it. He needs to get off the train because they're basically at their stopping point, and Tanya is still under the effects of roofies. So what Bond does is tries to threaten the drug into wearing off. He's just like, come on, wake up or I'm leaving you.
He does this a couple of times and it works. Yeah.
It's so good when he's trying to threaten a drug. Oh, what a king.
So, yeah, we get a scene of them in the hotel in Venice, having made it to safety, and then fucking Rosa Kleb comes in disguised as the maid.
Yeah.
And tries to pull a gun on Bond. Yeah. And then at the last second, Tanya finally remembers that she, is an agent of change, and fucking lunges at her, which gives Bond enough time to fight her off while she's trying to kick at him with this poison knife in her shoe.
Very inefficiently as well.
Yeah. Until Tanya finally shoots her, and Bond cannot stop himself from saying she's had her kicks.
Kleb doesn't die well either. It seems like she's in a lot of, she dies bitterly. It's not a kind of quick, haha, end of the James Bond film. She really suffers.
Yeah.
She puts it through, yeah.
How Tanya doesn't fucking murk Bond also and then just take the coding machine to the highest bidder, I will never know. But
yeah.
Well, because she's not a character. I've been over it.
They get in a vaporetto, and there's always one plot point that I forget when I'm retelling these. And the plot point that I forgot in this one was the sex tape, right? The tape that they made of them. Grant tells Bond that Kronstein's plan is to make their deaths look like a murder-suicide and leak this sex tape. And so disgracing MI7 in the world because this agent has just been having sex with a woman on the job.
Fucked up.
I mean, in 2021, they have just passed a bill that has made that explicitly legal retroactively. But back in 1963, that was a genuine threat, I guess. And so Bond tosses that film in the canal because no one can know that James Bond is anything other than chaste.
There's also a very funny shot, so the camera pans up to indicate that the film has ended, but because they're in this gondola against a green screen, it just looks like the gondola's sinking.
And Bond just does shadow puppets too. Good lord.
What a time.
And that's the movie. Yeah. But
we get James Bond will return
in Goldfinger.
A movie I'm genuinely looking forward to watching. Hi everyone. Devon here. Sadly, at this exact moment during the recording of our podcast, our dear leader and fearless showrunner Alice was silenced by the deep state, and we lost the remainder of her audio. Regretfully, we have had to cut the final 10 minutes of deep, interesting, funny, and insightful analysis that you know and love. Fortunately, I am at liberty to disclose the results of our patented scum spectrum. For SMARM, we rated this movie a 3, since Bond largely spoke to Kerim, and so didn't have the time to be as smarmy as we expected. For cultural insensitivity, one scene in particular single-handedly raises this score to a 5. Once again, Bond was very light on unprovoked violence, giving us a 2. And as for misogyny, Bond's treatment of Tanya gives us a 6. Thanks for listening, and my deepest apologies for this. With any luck, this will be the first and last time we ever have to do this. New free episodes every other week, but if that is simply too long to wait, we have a Patreon where we upload bonus episodes on those interim weeks. That's patreon.com/KillJamesBond, all one word. Kill James Bond will return in Goldfinger in 2 weeks' time. Thank you, take care, and I love you. Romantically. Is that too? Shall we cut that actually?